What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. And this is Skull Guy.
Hey.
He can speak, but there's not a lot going on in there, so
Hurtful.
might take some getting used to, right? But before you click off, please don't. The title of this video is not clickbait. For the time being, let's just put the horrible part out of the way and focus on the miracle part of the title. Come with me on a mystical magical journey and I'll explain to you why not only Fallout London is a great game, but it is also a bigger deal than you think it is. Now this mod is in all definition a miracle. Something miraculous that could only happen when the stars align, the moon turns blue, and Bethesda doesn't try to sue the modders to high heaven for fear that a few passionate people might actually put them out of business. I mean, let's just take a look at the history of all of the Fallout Total Conversion mods, and you will see that the mere fact that we're able to run this game, that we're able to press start at the menu and create a new character, is the definition of lightning in a bottle. Do you remember Fallout 4 Project Mojave? It's an ambitious mod that aims to recreate the entirety of New Vegas in Fallout 4's engine. Yeah, similar to your Tinder DM, the mod hasn't received any update since 2021. There is the Capital Wasteland project, which was announced 5 years ago and is in development. The goal of the mod is to take advantage of the new engine and bring the Fallout 3 experience to the next generation. The devs still post regular updates on their Twitter page, so I assume the team is still working on the mod, just with Bethesda's lawyers pressing their eyeballs against the back of their heads and breathing down their necks. In case you aren't aware, before the Capital Wasteland project, there existed another mod, which showed a lot of potential but was utterly annihilated by Bethesda years into its development, once they found out the devs were using the voice lines from the original Fallout 3. Okay, I know it is against the law to put the voice lines from the game into your mod, but you know, it's been a decade since the last Fallout game was released. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Fallout 4 was released in November 2015. A decade ago. There has not been any other Fallout game released since then at all. And looking at today's gaming landscape, like the situation that Bethesda is in, I wouldn't be surprised if many of us died before we get to see another Fallout game. At the moment, the most promising project that's currently still alive would be Fallout Miami. The devs released a very interesting environmental update on YouTube about 3 months ago. I suggest you go check it out if you're interested in the franchise, because there's a lot of things going on with the project that I'm personally very excited about. Just don't get too excited. 3 months is a long time to not get assassinated. Undoubtedly, there are many other mods out there that's currently in development by fans who are fed up with Bethesda's lack of urgency and utter lack of respect for the franchise as well as the fans that they have, or just love these IPs so much that they decided to take it upon themselves, you know, to do God's work. I'm not an avid follower of the modding scene, and I doubt many people are, because you know, modding is a very niche thing to do, if you know what I mean. Commonly people just, you know, they go and they play the game. It's the hardcore fans that want more, that want something better. So if you know of any mod that is currently in development that show a lot of potential, please comment down below to let everybody know and also raise awareness, and maybe we can support the devs this way. Now, in order for you to understand why Fallout London is such a big deal, let's take a look at the story. First thing first, the story here doesn't take itself too seriously. Sure, matters can get dark and serious sometimes, but it doesn't reach the level of Fallout 2, for example. And the devs are respectful enough to not do the sexual slavery stuff like in Fallout the Frontier, even though I think it's hot as fuck. I'm not a hardcore fan of the Fallout franchise or anything. I do greatly enjoy the series and understand why people love it so much. The immersive atmosphere, the dark humor, the interesting role-playing options, which is how I was able to finish every Fallout game. Well, except for Fallout 3, because, you know, it's Fallout 3. This being a fan-made mod, I wasn't expecting much going into Fallout London, and while it's nothing too special, I was actually surprised by how interesting the story is. Well, to be precise, I was surprised by how interesting it eventually becomes. Because similar to your main character, the story starts off half dead and with a bad case of scoliosis. Only 5 hours in did I start to think about the story instead of the blood stain on the wall and how I can add to it. Now, I'm not saying that it is bad or anything. Please don't put words into my mouth. Don't. I'm not comfortable, okay? Stay away from me. You can put many things in here, not words, alright? I feel like the devs really tried to make the best with what they have. There are some really interesting set pieces here that is going to put Fallout 4 to shame. And I'm not talking like high school bully shame. I'm talking like shave your head and walk naked down the street. Walk of shame. Shame. Fallout 4. Okay, Bethesda? Given that this is a mod, I can't even begin to imagine the torture the devs had to go through in order to create what we have here. Fallout 4 barely even works nowadays. The creation engine, don't get me started, okay? The creation engine. Say what you want to say about this mod, and believe me, I do have a lot to say about this mod, but we gotta admire the devs, the tenacity that they have to get some of the things here to work. But while I do see the effort, the story here still feels like an excuse to introduce you to the main factions of the game, and the open world is only there so that you can hopefully get distracted on the way to the next marker on the map. Now you might say Fallout 4 story works the same way, but I argue that the execution is leagues better in Fallout London, because the people you encounter as well as their plights are infinitely more interesting. I know that's not saying much, because Fallout 4 was as interesting as Amaranth's Dream. But compared to a moldy piece of bread, I take the slightly less moldy piece of bread any day. A word of warning though, if you're just coming off the Baldur's Gate 3 RPG high and is looking for something similar, the only thing you're gonna find here is disappointment. That and fish people. Fallout London is more akin to an action FPS with some RPG elements sprinkled on top. No matter how hard you look, you're not gonna find any elaborate character interactions or intricately crafted dialogue trees here. Hell, what you say barely matters most of the time. Here comes a line that you're going to hear a lot in this video, okay? Prepare yourself. This is a mod, so we're just gonna have to let it slide. True to Fallout fashion, you have a lot of the wackiness that Fallout 4 lacked, like the faction of fish people who live underground and swim in the Thames, the faction that based their premise on colonial soldiers combined with pirates? Well, say what you want to say, can't fault these people for a lack of creativity. Something many other factions sorely lack, like the Vagabonds, who are disappointingly just a bunch of dudes wandering around stealing stuff instead of a Dutch Eurodance music group. I know it's Venga Boys, okay? But it just sounds similar, okay? It just sounds similar, alright? Let me have some fun here, okay? Let me have this one thing. The Venga Boys are still making music though. Can you imagine? So if you find yourself bored to death with the main story, try your best to get through the beginning session. Everything gets better from there. Or better yet, just follow the main story until you get a gun, then wander off in a random direction and begin your usual murder spree. You'll get yourself into many more sticky situations this way, but at least it won't feel like you're tracking your face across concrete. Compared to Fallout 4, the open world feels a heck of a lot more apocalyptic. It could be that you're in London, the second closest place to hell on earth, right after LA. Or it could be that the world here is actually well designed, with many interesting locations, both visually and content-wise. One thing that could be considered a downside is that many of these locations can sometimes feel very gamey, in the sense that they exist for the sole purpose of introducing you to a quest or a character. NPCs only start their dialogue when you approach them, then proceed to stop existing after giving you whatever wacky quest they have. You can extract a tiny bit of entertainment and amusement from these characters through some of their voice lines, but you know, you're gonna squeeze hard, you know, you're gonna suck it hard. Don't know what will come out though, but you're gonna suck it hard, you're gonna squeeze it, you're gonna fondle that. It's still a fan-made mod, so you can't expect CRPG level of dialogue, okay? Forget about the trees. Now one thing that is definitely an upside is the level design. To my surprise, there's a staggering amount of verticality to the locations. During your travels, you will often find yourself climbing up rooftops, fighting on makeshift scaffoldings, or inside buildings, clearing enemies from floor to floor. Some interiors are even designed with verticality in mind. Another thing that I really love about the map design is the amount of time you spend fighting in close quarter. There's just something about fighting in confined spaces where there's nowhere to run or hide that adds a sense of brutality to the combat. And speaking of combat, no matter what you do or how much you try to hide it, the core gameplay loop of Fallout 4 still rears its ugly, deformed, failed experiment Shrek looking ass around the corner. But I think we should really be happy because this only happens once in a while. The rest of the time, shit's fire. The reason why the shooting works in Fallout London is because you're not shooting at Terminators that have just eaten other Terminators for breakfast. The best way I can put it is guns feel like they're guns. I play as an Asian woman named Shaniqua with maximum charisma and agility because I naively thought I could talk my way out of situations. Spoiler alert, it's impossible. Charisma is as useful as an umbrella in a tornado. I wanted to be a James Bond kind of type, but I ended up using stealth and abusing the VAT system. Now I don't know a thing or two about build optimization, but from my experience, even with my build, the combat is just challenging enough to not feel like sticking my thumbs into my eye sockets. How do I say this? The difficulty teeters on the edge of being too easy and too difficult, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? It can be too easy because shooting guns feel like shooting crack cocaine. Weapons deal very high damage and headshots are lethal. If you play your cards right, you can become a walking arsenal 2 hours into the game. The only limitation here is ammo, which runs out pretty quickly in case you are trying to have too much fun. Very early into the game, you are given a dog companion. He can either distract enemies or just downright murder them. Whenever there's one enemy left, you might as well casually stroll up with a shotgun, shove its barrel down his throat, and pull the trigger. You might have to shoot him a couple of times though before he dies. The shotgun here is not exactly powerful. Almost every gameplay mechanics are overhauled. This includes enemy AI. And I don't know about you guys, but the radiation poisoning is pretty apparent on some of these guys. Yeah. The few exceptions to what I've just pointed out are some enemies using rocket launchers that just insta-kill you. Spirits shall feast from above. Moments like these, they don't happen very often, so I guess it's not that bad. But I think there's a strategy here that I think you should know as well. At moments like these, we're supposed to go ourselves, I think, yeah, but I'm not sure that's what the devs intended. Now, what is all this talk about this game being unfair? Well, this game is unfair because you are just one person in a literal war zone. The devs designed the map so that you can encounter something every few steps in any directions, whether it be friends or foes. This leads to some of the most bizarre scenarios. Like this one here where I get chased by botflies only to run into this lady who I proceeded to unceremoniously murder. After looting her corpse, the botflies catch up to me. This resumes the chase, which then gets interrupted when a two-headed ragstag comes out of nowhere and starts beef with the fly. Another scenario is this one, where I simultaneously run away from a literal walking kamikaze sea mine while fighting colonial pirates at the same time. Now, if you're wondering why I'm constantly looking behind my back, it's not because I'm on crack. It was because I was worried the fucking sentient nuclear warhead might come up behind my back and recite the entirety of the Kama Sutra. And stuff like this happened all the time throughout my time playing this game. I wasn't kidding when I said literal war zone. A very fun and over-the-top war zone that's full of insane situations you can get yourself into. However, this can be a double-edged sword because the number of enemies you face can sometimes take away from the apocalyptic feel of the game. When there are so many people, so many freaks and colorful gangs running around wreaking havoc, the city just feels like a slightly dirtier version of real-life London. Now that you've seen why Fallout London is such a big deal, comment down below what you think about it, okay?
Wait, why?
Because if they comment, it'll help with the algorithm.
Why is it a big deal?
To get the views, to get ads. What are you on about?
Fallout London.
Yeah, Fallout London, that's why I'm making this video.
No, why is Fallout London a big deal? Dumbass.
I'm sorry, you guys understand why Fallout London is a big deal?
Pretty sure they don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was awkward. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. So, in case you haven't understood, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it outright, okay? Fallout London is a bigger deal than you think. It's because it is... wait, what? No! One of the best praises I can give this game is that the weapons sound phenomenal. I haven't shot a gun in real life before because blood is more fun when it gushes out through a gash. So I can attest to just how realistic these weapons sound. But the one thing I'm sure of is that they feel powerful. This, in combination with the high amount of damage, makes combat feel extremely violent, not to mention satisfying. The voice acting is also very good across the board. Not that this is bad, but I can't help but notice a sense of cheesiness in the way some of these lines were delivered. They don't take away from the overall atmosphere of the game, but enhance it in many ways. Some of these people sound a little bit too British, if that makes any sense. Not on the level of top of the morning to you, governor. Oi, anyway, Homelander just f***ed me wife.
Oi, Huey. Homelander done got me preggers and walked out on me and my boy.
Right for the taking, he promised. Turns out, they aren't as abandoned as he let on. The guards noticed, though. Chased me all the way to the Thames. Luckily, the ferryman was about to make a crossing. Saved my life.
And this guy is definitely too French.
A pleasure to meet you. I am Lieutenant Rambo, at your service. Though most people call me the Frenchman. The Bishop can help you with that. He knows more than the Ricos do.
I feel like this was a conscious decision on the part of the devs, but it's worth pointing out nonetheless. Also, the music slaps. I'm not a big fan of the radio music in the previous Fallout games, especially in Fallout New Vegas. The cowboy jazz sound is just not my cup of tea. So I'm glad to say that if you dislike what you hear from those games, then you might find yourself enjoying Fallout London's music a lot more. I'm not gonna play the music here because I don't want to get a copyright strike, but all the music from the game is available on their website, on the devs website for free, so you can go there and listen to it. If you like rock and roll, if you like that punk rock, you're gonna love it. Now that we're done with that part, how about we get back to the thing I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by a certain somebody? Okay, red guy, shut up. Blue guy, shut up, okay? God damn. Or I swear, the next thing I'll buy with my Patreon money will be a mirror so that you can watch as I perform a live vasectomy on you with a sledgehammer, alright? Okay, where was I, alright? The reason Fallout London is a bigger deal than you think is because Well, the game looks how you would expect post-apocalyptic England to look. Just downright depressing. I don't know about you, but if 50 Shades of Grey had this much murder in it, its fanbase would include a lot more than just horny housewives. Everything looks grey. The sky is grey, the ground is grey, the buildings are grey, even the enemies are grey. Well, if they're not grey then they're brown, just pick one. I know that this is an artistic decision, and a fitting one at that, because nothing says apocalyptic more than a black and white filter. How else are you gonna convey the post-apocalyptic atmosphere? Right? Right? This aesthetic decision can negatively affect the gameplay a lot of the time because the enemies just blend right in with the environment. It just feels like enemies appear out of thin air most of the time. One moment there's nobody and the next they're just lining up to run a train on you. It's goddamn hard to tell whether I'm looking at the environment or the insane hobo looking to wear my skin as a jacket. Well, if there's one upside, is that colors really pop whenever they're featured in a scene. Aside from that, you better get used to looking at ugly. Wouldn't be too much of a problem because you probably have a mirror, right? But since this is a mod, we're just gonna have to let that slide. In the next update, please maybe crank up the saturation a little bit more and give the enemy some color, okay? So that players know they're not just shooting at some gray pixels. Now, Fall London is a bigger deal than we think because it gives us hope. There! I said it, okay? It gives us hope. You know why? It's a good game, it's a miracle, but most importantly, it's a mod. It's a total conversion mod made by fans that got to see the light of day, okay? It's a janky, ugly ass looking mod that chooses the frame rate with a random number generator. It is filled with technical problems and is borderline unplayable at times due to frequent crashes. You don't know how many times it crashed on me, okay? My laptop here, it is way above the minimum requirements, okay? It's not top of the line there, but you know, it should be able to handle Fallout 4. There are so many things wrong with this mod. I can't even begin to tell you, so I'm gonna try anyways. The weapons here, they are all assets from the mods. So whenever you pull out a weapon, the game has to load all of the assets or the sound, the animations before you get to use it. In combat situations where enemies are rubbing their bolts against your face, it takes freaking forever for you to pull out the gun. Next thing, the face texture is bugged. So a lot of the time you're going to see a lot of black faces. It takes away from the experience every single time. Sometimes the sound just goes missing and it will come back once there is an explosion happen right next to your ears. Look at this freaking problem when I crouch. And you remember what I said about the crashes? Yeah, there's gotta be some Guinness World Record for the number of crashes that I experienced in this game, right? I'm not kidding. I can't show you the crashes because of the way I record my videos, but trust me, okay? You crash when you die, alright? When you reload a save, you crash randomly because the game decides to. You crash in the middle of conversations. You crash when you do this. And then if you do this a different way, you will experience the lowest frame possible. Yeah. And there are so many problems that I can't even begin to list out. But all of that being said, this is a mod that is made with love and actual passion and not an insane drive to just follow money. I make fun of this mod a lot, and as I do with everything else, because if I stop, then the depression starts. But the fact that a project like this can turn out to be this good is honestly a wake-up call to gamers and Bethesda. You know why? Because when the next official Fallout game releases and it turns out to be dog shit, then there is no excuses to be made. When a bunch of people working in their spare time can make a game with this quality, then a multi-billion-dollar company must simply do better. I know Bethesda provided the modding tools to make all of this possible, and I'm not taking that away from them. But it doesn't mean that you can just let other people make your games, okay? Remember earlier when I said forget about the horrible part? Well, the horrible part about this mod is that it's still Fallout 4 in essence. It's a beautiful soul stuck inside a hideous, mangled body, constantly begging to be let out of his infernal meat prison that's holding it back from being truly great. It's like a thick-ass fun succubus. It sucks out all of the fun that I have from this game. Every time there's a tiny little hint of excitement and innovation, everything is snuffed out entirely by the creation engine. Something that Bethesda is still desperately trying to grasp onto for some godforsaken reason. Just let it go. Let it go, Bethesda. Let it go. As for the gamers out there, please stop supporting subpar products. If you see any microtransactions, battle passes, or just cut content sold as DLC, just don't even buy the game. If people buy the game, inevitably some of them will get tricked by the obtrusive ads and prompts telling them to spend more money on digital stuff they should already own. Honestly, it breaks my heart to see comments telling me to just accept the fact that this is what the gaming landscape is like nowadays, to roll over and let these soulless companies trample all over my face. I don't need it, I got my dummy mommy, okay? Literally, this guy just says that we have to take what these companies are doing and just go along with it. Pal, I know that you pay money to get attention from Pokemon, okay? But I suggest you keep your humiliation kink to yourself. It's people like these that are slowly killing the gaming industry, one mindless purchase at a time. You know what you can do with that money? You can use it to buy a tons of indie games. Yeah, you know how many indie games out there with a fraction of the price of a AAA game with 3-4 times as much fun that you can feel by not playing these AAA games made by companies that regards you as nothing but the dirt under their boot. Okay? Nothing. You are nothing. This is part of the reason why I review so many indie games on this channel. There's so many games out there that don't get the attention that they deserve because everybody's too busy focusing on Fortnite and on Call of Duty and on all of these franchises that exist only because of the hype that they generate, but has nothing left to offer but contempt for you. If you are enjoying Fallout London, the dev team has a Patreon page, so you can go there and support their endeavors, okay? But you know who else has a Patreon page? Thank you to my patrons for making this video possible. Thank you so much, and special shout out to all Sayeris in the Lobotomized tier. The ad-free uncensored version of this video, a link to our Discord community as well as extra content is on the Patreon, so you know, consider supporting the channel there. Subscribe and stay tuned to witness my gradual descent into insanity. I don't have an outro for this video yet, so you know, bye!